Hello, everyone. It's time for Vanished Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanas. This is episode 153, season 7, and today's date is August 2nd, 2022. And I'm glad you could join me today. I have an interesting show coming up. Today, we'll talk about Burger Chef restaurants, another fast food chain that was like Henry's Hamburgers, McDonald's, Yankee Doodle Dandy, Burger King, you name it. And it had a very interesting life, this particular establishment. So I'll talk about the history of it and a few memories of this place. Also, I'll do two tributes of two actresses that passed away this weekend. First one was Nichelle Nichols from the TV series Star Trek, the first series, that is, and also actress, comedian Pat Carroll. Very funny lady. And I'll talk about my memories of watching these wonderful, talented ladies on television. Okay. First off, the program will go into a commercial break. This program is brought to you by 9 Lives Cat Food, featuring who else? Morris the Cat. And I found this commercial on YouTube, and it's hilarious. So just listen what he says. So this commercial is from the early 1970s. Most of his commercials were at the time. So just sit back and enjoy. Thank you, everyone.
9 Lives presents Morris.
Look at that pussycat.
Reminds me of Louie from the old neighborhood. Sounds like him, too.
Getting hungry?
I'll go watch the baboons.
Don't be finicky. There's 9 lives.
Well, if you've seen one baboon.
Tuna and egg, liver.
9 Lives liver.
9 Lives, nutritious foods cats really like, even Morris.
You bring out the animal in me, 9 Lives. Wow.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial for 9 Lives featuring Morris the Cat. Oh, did you hear that first line he said? They were in the zoo and he saw a tiger, and he reminded him of some neighborhood friend from his old from his old neighborhood. His name was Louie. I love these commercials when they were airing. They were wonderful. Morris the Cat, I think he still does commercials. You don't see him much, but they use different cats. And let me give you a little background of that. He was an orange tabby tomcat. Also, he was known as the most finicky cat. He was found in an animal shelter in Hinsdale, Illinois, 1968. And then they started airing commercials from 1969 to 1978. They used the first one, then they continue on. And he did about almost 60 commercials. No, that's a lot. Yeah. And his animal trainer, his handler, his name was Bob Martwick. Also, let's see who else. But he also appeared in 2 movies. He appeared in The Long Goodbye, starring Elliot Gould, and the other one, Seamus, with Burt Reynolds and Diane Cannon. So, I never noticed that. I've seen the movies a long time ago. Maybe if I rewatch them, maybe I could find Morris in there. I don't know if he's named that. I don't think so. But he's still grumpy. But most of the commercials are on YouTube. If you care to watch, they're very enjoyable. They're just funny. He was a cute thing. He really was. Okay. At the beginning of the program, I mentioned that I will talk about the Burger Chef restaurants and also my tributes to 2 actresses, Nichelle Nichols and Pat Carroll. Before I get started, I want to mention one more death that happened. It was Bill Russell. that famous basketball player. He played for the, I believe, the Boston Celtics. I don't follow basketball, so I'm a little rusty. But he was well known. He was a tall guy. Ooh, he was tall. But a lot of people don't know that he did acting. He performed on certain TV shows, and he did that. I don't know about movies. No. So he did. There was 3 credits he did. The first acting role he did was it was a TV series that lasted 1 year. It was called Cowboy in Africa, and that starred Chuck Connors from The Rifleman. Also, he appeared on It Takes a Thief, starring Robert Wagner. He was on The Bill Cosby Show, the first one in 1971, and he appeared in the variety show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. I have it on DVD, and he appeared with a lot of famous sports figures at the time, and also Love American Style. He appeared on The White Shadow, and his last acting role was in Miami Vice. So he seemed like a nice man. He really does. And from what I heard from people, a very good basketball player. So that's good. And he was well known in the sports field. So it's a shame that. Okay, and he was 88 years old. So that's he lived a long life. Okay. All right. Before I begin to talk about Burger Chef, I will talk about the 2 actresses I mentioned. First up is Nichelle Nichols, and she's best known for her portrayal as Lieutenant Uhura. Her first name was Nyota, and she appeared in Star Trek and also the film sequels. She was in there. And I'll give you a little history of her. Okay. Excuse me. She was born on December 28, 1932 in Robbins, Illinois. That's a suburb outside of Chicago, not too far from where I live. And her father was the town mayor in like 1929, right in the early 30s. And later on, maybe when he finished his term, they moved to Chicago and they lived in the Woodlawn neighborhood. My father owned property there a long time ago, way before I was born, and attended Inglewood High School, where she graduated. And then she did she appeared on stage and some musicals, and let's see. And then let's see what else. She was featured on the cover of Ebony magazine, and she was interviewed in 2 articles. And I believe she was discovered by Duke Ellington, the band leader. I think she was, and he was a big band leader, very talented. And then before she starred in Star Trek, she appeared in a TV show called The Lieutenant. And Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, also created this show, and she appeared on that show for the first time. So this is the first time she appeared not with him, but in one of his series. Also, William Shatner was in this television show. And then she got the role of Lieutenant Uhura when Star Trek premiered in 1966, and she wasn't on every episode, not from what I remembered, and she wasn't. And she wanted to give up the role, but Martin Luther King convinced her, no, stay. And she did. And I'm glad she did. She was wonderful, and she was at the computer, all the computer, all the, how do you say it? Hardware, and she was on the consoles and all that. She was communicating with each of the crew members on the Starship Enterprise, and it was fascinating to watch. I have the show on DVD. It's on Blu-ray. It looks gorgeous, and really is. I haven't watched the show lately. I'm not a Trekkie fan really, but a little bit. Um, I remember watching the show on Channel 9, WGN-TV in Chicago, and they aired reruns. And when the show ended in 1969, then the reruns started. When it ran for the first time on NBC, it wasn't that popular. I mean, it was, but rating wise, no. It's just I'm surprised. So because the show was from Desilu Studios, and which was owned by Lucille Ball, and she made a decision. They wanted not to air this show, but she made the decision, and she said, "No, I like the show. Leave it." I'm glad she did. I'm really happy she did. And so I watched the reruns of Star Trek um, religiously during the 70s. Oh, it's a fascinating show. It really is. And then more Star Trek sequels came and gone, and they still have a new one today. And movies, new movies like that. And let's see. And then after that, she did some movies. There was one in the movie called Truck Turner, and she was with it starred Isaac Hayes, the singer. And I heard she played a madam, and she had she had a dirty mouth. That must have been fun to watch that. And so that was interesting. And she made personal appearances, going on the circuit, signing autographs. And then she got sick. Then she was diagnosed with dementia, and then she quit. And that was a shame. And she passed away on July 30th, 2022. She was 89 years old. She lived a long life. And but she made a huge mark on television. I think she was the first Black woman appeared on a primetime series. She wasn't the lead, but she was part of that. But she was a supporting character. And then after that, like in 1968, Diane Carroll starred in Julia, so she was the lead actress of a sitcom. So she did that. And well, there were others that mentioned, that I mentioned, but never mind that. Anyway, so it's a shame she passed away. She was wonderful. She really was. Okay. Next up, I will talk about Pat Carroll. Now, Pat Carroll was a very funny, and I don't know, when I look at it, when I watch her, I just started laughing. She didn't do anything, because she had this infectious laugh, and she was charming and very talented, and she was best known as Ursula. She voiced Ursula in the 1989 Disney movie, The Little Mermaid. I've seen it once or twice. Fabulous. Excuse me. Then, let's see. So, I should be back in in one moment. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I'm back. I apologize. I had a frog in my throat. I had to clear it up. I don't know. When I speak too much, my throat gets dry and drink a lot of water. It's some sort of throat condition. So I'm fine now. So anyway, back to Pat Carroll. Like I said before, she was a very funny actress. She was a comedian. She's best known as voicing Ursula in The Little Mermaid. She appeared in a lot of TV shows. Also on stage, and my brother saw her in the theater production of Chicago, and she played Big Mama. And he went to see her, and there was I think Mary Lou Henner, and I don't know who else was in the cast, but my brother told me she was fabulous. She's she was one of a kind. So I'll give you a little biography of her. She was born May 5th, 1927. Excuse me, in Shreveport, Louisiana. Then she moved to Los Angeles when she was 5 years old. And then she started doing little bit parts. She started in a couple movies, and then she appeared on television most of the time. She made her TV debut in the Red Button Show. A famous comedian. He had a variety show, and then she appeared in Caesar's Hour. She was a regular. She won an Emmy Award. That was Sid Caesar's after the show of Your Show of Shows. And then she was a regular on Make Room for Daddy, which was the Danny Thomas show. And she was there for 4 years, and she appeared with Carol Burnett, and she was in the production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's musical version of Cinderella, and she played one of the stepsisters. I watched that on YouTube. She was great. She was nasty and funny, and her character's name was Prunella. And when she toured on Broadway, she had a one-woman show called Gertrude Stein, 3 times. And she did over 1,000 performances, which I watched an interview of her recently. She said that. And then most people will remember her in the 70s. She played Cindy Williams' mother on Laverne and Shirley. She played Lily. What's her name? I can't think of her last name. Shirley Feeney. So she was Lily Feeney. Excuse me. And she played. There was a TV show that was on for about a year. It was in 1977 called Busting Loose. That starred Adam Arkin, and there were other characters. She played his mother, and her character's name was Pearl Markowitz, and she was funny in that show. And then she appeared in Too Close for Comfort with Ted Knight. It was called the Ted Knight Show, and she started in like the last 2 seasons of that, and then he passed away in 1986. And then she played the mother of Suzanne Summers in it was a sitcom, a syndicate called She's the Sheriff, and she was there for 2 years. I never seen that show. I want to watch that. She also did voiceovers for Hanna-Barbera, Pound Puppies, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, TV specials, with Garfield. But she's just well known as Ursula, the squid. And her famous song is called Poor Unfortunate Souls. And I've heard, I've watched the movie and I've heard her sing. That was wonderful. She was great. Also, she appeared in a lot of game shows, lots of game shows in the 60s and the 70s, famous for Password. I used to watch it on the Game Show Network, and there's some episodes on YouTube. If you watch it, she's funny and very smart. She appeared like Celebrity Sweepstakes. I think these I Got a Secret, Match Game. She appeared, to tell the truth. And acted in Shakespeare plays, and wow, that was wonderful. Here's a bit of trivia about her. About 60 years ago, I might talk about this on a future episode, was the Jetsons that premiered in 1962. She's going to do the voice of Jane Jetson. She signed, but they changed. I don't know what happened. They changed their minds, and then they had Penny Singleton took over the voice. And it was going to be Pat Carroll for Jane Jetson and Maury Amsterdam as George, but I don't know. And that was alleged. But she filed suit, and so they filed suit, but she didn't win. So she didn't get the role. I think she would have been fine, but she might be too comedic for that role. I could be wrong. Anyway, so she passed away this past weekend, same time with Nichelle Nichols on July 30th, 2022. And she was 95 years old. She lived a long life. Oh, God bless her. She was fabulous. There was no one like her. And my memories of watching her was, of course, what I've said, TV shows, game shows. She did appear in a play in Chicago, maybe about, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It said in an article. It could be in the 90s. And so another funny lady gone. That's sad. Okay. Right now we get down to the fun stuff. Is Burger Chef. Oh. This interesting establishment was very memorable to most people in Chicago, but it's really not it was not found in Chicago. I'll tell you in a second and give you the beginnings of the restaurant. So it was an American fast food chain, restaurant chain that is, excuse me, and it was founded in Indianapolis, Indiana. Okay, and it expanded to other states in America and also some in Canada, and so let's see. So in the Chicagoland area, the only locations I could find was, let's see, there was one in Homewood, Illinois. Also, I have a list here somewhere, so I will get it for you. It'll be up in a second. And okay, here we go. Okay, I got this ad from the Chicago Tribune from 1961, and they were about 6 or 7 locations. I'll read off the locations real fast. So here's one. It was in Maywood and Roosevelt Road. Also, it was on 82nd and Pulaski. I did not know that because I lived in that neighborhood, but this is before I was born. So, yeah, there was a Burger Chef there. Also in Franklin Park on Grand Avenue. Also Homewood, which I mentioned. It was on 175th Street and Dixie Highway. And had 2 locations in Joliet. One was at Plainfield and Larkin and one on Madonna Street. And also in Indiana, there was one in Gary on Broadway Street. But I also found out there was one in Valparaiso. And a couple of people mentioned yesterday when I posted this, to say I'm going to do a podcast episode on Burger Chef, they said there was one in Evanston and Elgin, which I didn't know, but that's all I could find with the locations. And could have been other locations in the Chicagoland area. We'll see about that. Okay. Right now, I'm going to play a commercial for Burger Chef. And the woman, the young lady that's speaking in this commercial, well, I'll give you a hint. She's from the Brady Bunch. First, I had Barry Williams from last week doing Shasta Orange Soda. Now, the young lady is from Brady Bunch, but I won't tell which girl is. It could be Marsha Brady, Jan Brady, or Cindy Brady. So I'm going to play the commercial, and you try to guess who it is. But once you listen to her, you know it's who it will be. So here we go. Thank you.
Open wide, America. Burger Chef's got thick, juicy, terrific burgers for you. 100% all beef. We really work hard to serve them hot and delicious, so you can take them to our works bar and make them taste even better, the way you want them. You're gonna love our burgers.
Open wide, America. You never can forget. You get more to like at Burger Chef.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial. That, of course, was Eve Plum as Jan Brady doing a Burger Chef commercial. You can find it on YouTube. There are a few commercials of Burger Chef on YouTube, and if you care to watch, please do. They're fun to view on those. Anyway, getting back to Burger Chef. Let's see. Let me tell you about the items they provided. Let's see what we got. They had a double burger called the Big Chef. So it's like a quarter pounder or a Big Mac like that. And also they had the quarter pound hamburger, which was the quarter pounder in McDonald's, called the Super Chef. They also had a works bar where you would go into the restaurant and there was a display or like a table, and they had toppings. They had condiments, like, for example, tomatoes, lettuce, pickles, or ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, whatever you wanted, onions, and this reminds me of Fuddruckers. Believe it or not, Fuddruckers is still in business, but I don't think they're in Chicago anymore. I haven't seen any. The last time I went to a Fuddruckers was in Schaumburg. Well, this was about 15 years ago, 15, 20 years ago when I worked up north at my job. And so they also had fish sandwiches. They had French fries. I don't know if they had onion rings. I don't think so. And, they had milkshakes, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, whatever you wanted. And also in 1972, they introduced the Fun Burger. And it included a hamburger, and it had puzzles and a small toy. Well, you know what it sounds like. It sounds like the Happy Meal from McDonald's, and which now I'm going to talk about the Fun Meal. And it was the first kids meal. It included a burger, French fries, and a drink, and a cookie, and a small toy, and they included stories like a little comic strips, and the mascots were Burger Chef and Jeff, and you would see those in those commercials, advertisements, and they had adventures with other people. Included the magician Burgerini, and they had a vampire. His name was Count Fangburger. And they had a talking ape called Burgerilla, and there was a witch called Cackleburger. And the Fun Meal consisted with riddles and puzzles. And then in 1979, McDonald's introduced the Happy Meal. And so the people who worked for Burger Chef, the guys in charge, sued McDonald's, but they lost. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know. That's kind of weird. Also, there was they did some promotional advertising. Like, for example, when Star Wars was released in 1977, they did, Burger Chef did some promotions for their movie, and they had boxes featuring all the Star Wars characters like Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca, Princess Leia, and of course Darth Vader. And they had that, and you can find those on eBay. You can find them. They have them on, they're posted, and if you want to buy them, if you're a Star Wars geek and a big fan, grab them, snatch them, like that. And then, to tell you the truth, my memories of watching on TV, the commercials of Burger Chef were just that. I've never went to a Burger Chef restaurant, so I don't know how it tasted. I have no idea. And they used to advertise on Channel 32, WFLD TV in the 70s. I remember watching, reruns of that, like the Munsters or Speed Racer. What else? Like Felix the Cat. So they advertised probably during Dirty Dragon, BJ and Dirty Dragon show. Maybe they did it. I'm not sure. And I remember seeing I always wanted, I don't know, because there wasn't any Burger Chef restaurants where I lived, not close by. So that's a shame. That was a shame. Okay, so in 1968, General Foods Corporation purchased the chain, and they expanded. And they had 600 locations in 39 states. So I think it grew real fast. And in 1982, General Foods sold Burger Chef to a Canadian company called Amasco. And they owned Hardee's, that fast food chain. And believe it or not, I went to a Hardee's one time, and that was in DeKalb, Illinois, near Northern Illinois University. And my brother attended there, and I went to a Hardee's one time. It was pretty good, but it was years ago. This was like in the 80s. So, and they did carry some of the items of Burger Chef. They did carry, I believe they carried the maybe the Big Chef or the Super Chef. I'm not sure. And and then they just got, let's see. So they got rid of that. And then all the Hardee's restaurants, all the Burger Chef restaurants were converted into Hardee's all over the United States, which was a shame. So that disappeared. Burger Chef disappeared from the Chicagoland area about the 80s, early 80s, like that, 81, 82, and they were gone. They had some slogans, Burger Chef, which is fascinating. And I'll read them off to you. So let's see. In like in 1 year, they said there's more to like at Burger Chef, and Burger Chef goes all out to please your family. And then for 5 years, from 71 to 76, you advertise you get more to like at Burger Chef. And from 4 years, from 1976 to 1980, they said we really give you the works. And open wide, America, you never can forget. And also, you get more to like at Burger Chef. And the last one they used was nowhere else but Burger Chef. So, yeah, if you watch the commercials on YouTube, they'll probably mention these slogans. They probably will do that. Okay. Also, there was this didn't involve in Chicago, but there was like a very tragic event that happened in outside of Indianapolis at Speedway, and it was the Burger Chef murders, and there were these employees that worked at that restaurant, and they disappeared, and a lot of people thought they robbed the store. You know, it was like an inside job, but it wasn't the case. No, because it was a robbery, kidnapping, and then about not too far from the restaurant, excuse me, four bodies were found. There were 4 deaths, and they used a firearm, a knife, and blunt option. Oh, it was horrific. It really was. Those poor teenagers, you know. But they never found. It's still a unsolved case. They haven't found the perpetrators. So, but a lot of people remember that it was a huge news item. So this occurred in November 17th, 1978. So that's called the Burger Chef murders, like that. And it was 2 girls and 2 boys. So that's horrible, like that. And maybe that was the reason. Maybe a lot of people think of that. Maybe it was the demise of the restaurant, but it really wasn't, because it opened too fast, too many locations. And that sounds like Chicken Unlimited. They did the same thing in Chicago. They opened too many locations, and then they were always in debt. So they should have done it slowly, you know. And I still miss that restaurant to this day. Okay, and so Burger Chef will live on through vanished Chicagoland land. That's where it'll. So another fast food chain is gone, just like Yankee Doodle Dandy. I miss that place too. Okay, so that'll be all for today. For this episode, I discussed my tributes to actresses Pat Carroll, Nichelle Nichols. Also, I talked about the Burger Chef restaurant chain. Also, I did some research on that. That was very interesting to discuss. So, I will do another podcast episode this weekend. And once this podcast episode is published, it'll be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Amazon Music. Also, it's on iHeartRadio, and so wherever podcasts are available. I also have a YouTube channel, also Vanished Chicagoland Stories. This will be posted on my social media accounts. You can on Facebook and Twitter if you care to listen. Okay. So this is Pete Costanis, your host of Vanished Chicagoland Stories, the podcast, and thank you again for joining me. I had a wonderful time talking. Pardon me for the coughing. I did my best. My throat gets dry for speaking too much, and I apologize again. So, so it's bye-bye now for me. And here is Ray Rayner saying bye-bye-bye with a little traveling music, as always on every episode. So take care, everyone. So long, and have a good day.
We have to go. Bye-bye-bye.